Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
What is going on? How you guys all doing on this late Saturday night? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and this is my review of last night's episode of Friday Night SmackDown. It was the May 31st, 2020. God, time was it there? May 31st, 2024 edition of SmackDown. And it took place in Albany, New York. It was the Fallout show of SmackDown from King and Queen of the Ring, and we started the build for the SmackDown side for Clash at the Castle. Of course, I am prioritizing getting the Clash at the Castle match card done this weekend. That, and I guess it looks like to me, even though I don't think the Smark Out Moment list confirmed it, I still think it's basically official. And it's kind of been back and forth with that for a while. I'm going to check myself here just to be safe, see if they ever did update it or not. I don't think they did, or if it was at another time. They still haven't had it listed, but I'm going to basically make it official. Because now that it looks like I have a turn to do for my WWE Turn Alert, episode number 300, as promised, new graphics for number 300. So I do have to work on that as well. So that's probably the two things I'm going to work on the rest of this weekend when I have the time, is my Clash at the Castle card and my new Turn Alert graphics as well. Hopefully will be completed, and I will, of course, post them as well. May have to update my Turn Alert commercial, maybe. Might have to do that. That probably won't be too difficult to do. But first, we're going to hear talk about SmackDown. Not going to lie, SmackDown felt a little bit weak. I felt. I mean, it wasn't horrible. Like, it actually did advance some stories. We got a match we've been wanting for a long time teased, which I'm hoping they save it till SummerSlam. And that is Logan Paul versus L.A. Knight. Yeah! For the United States Championship. Although, of course, that would be Logan Paul wrestling in his hometown of Cleveland. It would suck to see him lose the title there to Logan Paul, but it's about time they put a belt on LA Knight. And also, Logan Paul does not need to be United States Champion any longer. He doesn't. He barely defends. He's a scumbag. Can't stand him. I'm sorry. We got some story further going on somewhat with A-Town Down Under and DIY. Also a little tease and a possible crack in the alliance, though, of A-Town Down Under. It looks like they have Bayley's opponent for Clash at the Castle. And we also got to talk about Mr. Cody Rhodes and that ending segment. Doing some nostalgia, pulling a Mark Henry was AJ Styles. And we will talk about again how a lot of the titles on SmackDown, in my opinion, despite the fact that I love the people who are holding them, not gonna lie, been a wee bit lackluster with the stories, most of them. Matches are great. Stories, though, we'll talk about them as it goes on. I think that's just what, again, I don't know what it is. SmackDown has kind of felt like it's taken a wee bit of a back seat. Like, there's not too many shows that are like fire, like Raw has been. SmackDown, it's like, as what's been for the past like 4 years. The Bloodline. And something else here and there. That's pretty much it. which is not that great. Not horrible, but not like must-see TV. But of course, we will roll in. We will get started. We will open up with what was the coronation for the winner of the Queen of the Ring, which is Nia Jax. She comes out, crowns herself, and of course they give her the microphone. As I keep saying, despite the fact that I say Nia has improved a lot in the ring, I still cannot stand her on the microphone. I can't. She says, let's get things right. I'm the queen. I got a title shot at SummerSlam. And she commands Bayley to come out to the ring right now. Bayley comes out, but as she's coming out, she gets blindsided by Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Chelsea tells Nia that by SummerSlam, her buddy Piper is going to be champion. And Nia's like, I don't care. I'm going to annihilate whoever it is. Yeah, so Nia Jax is probably going to be Nia Jax versus Bayley at SummerSlam. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, I'm sure it'll be a good match. Again, Nia has put on better matches. But this is where, of course, I started not talking crap on title reigns, but Bayley hasn't had much to do this reign. Again, like, that's how it is for, like, all the champions on SmackDown. Like, A-Town Down Under. I'm honestly going to say, I still think it was maybe a mistake for them to split the tag titles. Give them new belts. Yes, that was a great idea. But I don't think the tag division has enough depth to have two sets of belts. Because right now, they just don't feel that special right now. Awesome Truth's tried. A-Town Down Under, still bland. Again, Austin Theory, great in-ring talent, but it's just like, he's not done much at all since he beat John Cena. Grayson Waller, great in the ring, but like, is he really like that must see? Then we got Logan Paul, who's part-time champion, barely shows up, still can't stand the guy, great wrestler. And then we got Cody, Rhodes, and Bayley, who are putting on excellent matches. Don't get me wrong, but there's literally just no story. They're just, for the most part, two people just holding belts. Like Bayley, I mean, there was something with like Bayley and Tiffany Stratton. And I have nothing against Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. I even mentioned I thought it was a good idea to move them. But even so, they really weren't winning a lot of matches on their own. So, them, I get why, because, spoiler alert, we get to later in the show, it looked like Piper Niven earned herself a title match at Clash of the Castle. And I get it, we're in Scotland. They want to give people like Drew McIntyre, Piper Niven, maybe also give a tease on Raw, maybe the Unholy Union as well, like a shot to wrestle in front of their home country. I get that. But when you haven't used them well in so long, it does kind of make it all fall a little flat. And unfortunately, again, Bayley has not really had much story since being champion, and same with Cody Rhodes. Like, he basically is just being a fighting champion, putting on great matches. I'm not going to complain and say they're bad champions. It's just that they're not given much to really, like, tell good stories. Like, Bayley is just like it feels like she's an afterthought. And Cody, we'll save Cody for the end. And again, I love Cody Rhodes. I love Bayley. I'm glad they're champions. But I wish they actually had stories to their feuds. Because there really isn't much stories right now. Just me. But that's how we opened up the show. Backstage, this sets up for the closing segment. Nick Aldis is in his office. AJ Styles shows up in a suit. And you're like, uh-oh. He says he's thought about what Aldis said last week. About how if AJ wants another shot for the world title, he has to get to the back of the line. He said he has some time. He'd appreciate a chance to talk about the future in the ring. And Aldis says, of course. And he asks if there's anything AJ wants to tell him. And AJ says it's going to be hard enough to do it once. And he tells Aldis he has his time. And that's how we were going to close out the show, is AJ Styles addressing his future. Naomi was checking on Bayley also, and they want to fight. And Bayley says she can fight, so they want to have a match against Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. That, of course, does get granted later on in the show. We had Tommaso Ciampa versus Austin Theory. Which, first off, I don't think I've mentioned this. I am not a fan of Austin Theory's updated theme song. I missed the older version, was a little more pumped up. It was like, "Hey, down, down, do 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 do." This one was like, do 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 do. It's like they toned down like the upbeat part of it. I'm just like, dang it, come on! Like I freaking Death Rebel, but I'm not a fan of it. But they took on each other, and even next week too, they're gonna have Johnny take on Grayson, and I'm like, that's how we're gonna build to this tag title match. Just do what they used to do and have just one member of each team fight each other for the next couple weeks. Like, that's a little bland, if I'm being honest. But the thing that came out of this match though was there was a part during the match where I think Grayson was yelling at Corey Graves and Wade Barrett. And he said something like, Austin Theory's only relevant because he's feeling the Grayson Waller effect. And Theory's like, what did you say? And off that distraction, Ciampa was able to get the win, get a schoolboy pin. And again, next week we're going to be doing Johnny versus Grayson. Again, it's just lazy booking. It's like, it's not like firing me up. Like, personally, if it was me, I would have DIY win the tag titles, get them off of Grayson and Theory. I guess we might be splitting them up. Maybe by SummerSlam they will be split up. I don't know. Again, even so, again, I'm still not like dying to see that match. Like, I don't care what about either one of them. I would have DIY win the tag titles, then immediately get in a feud with the Bloodline. Probably have the Bloodline win the tag titles, which would be Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, whatever his name is. And eventually DIY will take them off after a long reign. Which you could do that as well. Because, I'm sorry, them beating A-Town Down Under is not going to be as big of a deal as it was when they beat the Revival in NXT. But yeah, that's kind of lazy there the way they're building to this match. Again, they could easily just tell the story about how Johnny and Austin have history from The Way in NXT. Blair Davenport was in that Nick Aldis' office, and Naomi rolls up, and of course Blair takes offense and tells Naomi off and leaves. Aldis informs Naomi that they got their tag match later on the show. As she leaves, here comes L.A. Knight. Yeah! He wants to talk some business. He asks if AJ is going to retire. Aldis says he don't know. And then Knight asks him where Logan Paul might be. And Aldis tells him to take a seat, and they talk. And after the commercial break, Knight leaves the office, and Kayla Braxton's there. Knight calls her Nosy Nelly, and the answer he gave you is there wasn't much to tell. But Logan Paul ain't here this week, so he'll just talk next week. Wrong! He's here, and what that means is he's not getting the answer he wants. He'll make it, and he calls out Logan Paul for a shot for the United States Championship. Now, of course, I still think that match should be saved till SummerSlam. They may do it at Clash at the Castle, but I think they need to wait till SummerSlam. Put Logan Paul and LA Knight in Money in the Bank if you want to. Either of them probably going to win it, but or some other thing. But I think we will at least have a one-on-one match though with this pairing. Because Carmelo Hayes rolls up, and he had a confrontation with LA Knight recently as well. And Hayes does botch this. And he says something like, why would you think you'd be able to face LA? We should have said Logan. Which LA Knight does kind of like turn around and like follows through on the botch and calls out Carmelo Hayes on it. And Hayes then just freight trains forward and says, if you want to walk the walk, he's him. And then Knight calls him trash. So I'm still guessing we're going to get a singles match between the two of them at Clash of the Castle, which I kind of hope they do. That'd be a good match. So then we get a promo of Angel Garza trying to get his former tag team partner Andrade to join Legado del Fantasma. And Andrade says, "Thank you, but no thank you." And that leads to Andrade having a match with Apollo Crews. Apollo, good to see you, my friend. They have the match, as you expected. Andrade won. Apollo, again, I've kind of given up on Apollo Crews. Again, I still think he definitely is meant to be a star. But as I keep saying, they called him up way too early in 2016. And to me, he's just struggled left and right for a character. Now, of course, interesting enough, though, he is fighting again on SmackDown next week. So him being on SmackDown 2 weeks in a row, that is kind of something. But I don't think it's really leading to anything. But after Andrade wins, thanks to some help from Angel Garza, afterwards the rest of the Legado del Fantasma comes to the stage, but Andrade just cold shoulders. And there was a backstage segment. They were trying to talk to Andrade, but then Apollo Crews stormed in and started beating down on Angel for getting involved in his business, and that's what's set up for the match next week. Again, I think it's cool they're giving Apollo 2 weeks in a row of TV time, but same time, I'm like, how can I trust they're actually going to do something with him this time? So we'll see if it actually works out for Apollo. I still hope it does, but like I said, I just feel like he's someone that they kind of have done everything with him, and I just don't think he's ever going to be the star that we all hoped he would be, unfortunately. But maybe he could. You never know. But we got that. We have a recap then of Randy Orton beating Tama Tonga last week to get into the King of the Ring finals. And then we have a segment backstage where Solo is talking strategy with Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, whatever his name is. And then Paul Heyman comes in. He says he's been thinking about how to better serve Solo while Solo's in charge. And with Roman as tribal chief, there was lots of violence. But that was to preserve the family and their works. And there was a lot of counsel from the wise man before each act. And he sees that he's recruiting violent men into the bloodline. But all he sees are random acts of violence without strategy. The strategy has to be that when Roman comes back, they have Cody Reigns in check. Solo says they do have Cody in check. He just doesn't know it's coming. But then Heyman goes, with all due respect, who is we? Leaving him to believe there's someone else up his sleeve. Which that someone else up his sleeve is probably either two people. Jacob Fatu or The Rock. One of them's going to be it. Of course, there's still the we want Roman chance. Anyways, though, Kevin Owens, though, heads out to the ring during the segment. He pops down to the mat and says he went all the way to Saudi Arabia to return to SmackDown because he wanted to make sure he had Randy Orton's back. Because Randy has had his over the past few years. And he wanted to make sure the bloodline wouldn't ruin his chances in King of the Ring. Randy isn't king. We saw the match. He didn't really lose. And while he's at home recovering, he knows the bloodline's here. So he figured he'd be here too. Out, though, calls Paul Heyman, basically waving the flag going, "Help me, Kevin, help me!" Because he comes out and he says he's served as special counsel and wise man to the tribal chief for nearly 4 years. And in his absence, he's now serving as Solo's wise man. And in that capacity, he's here to talk man to man, pro to pro, father to father, and there's mutual interests. He hopes he can serve. Owens tells him, get in the ring, get to your point. Heyman says how the people Solo is recruiting aren't even people. They're bloodthirsty, sadistic thugs who are looking for any excuse to take him out. which is bad for WWE. Now, Heyman, though, likes KO. The fans love KO. And if he keeps calling Solo out, they're going to do something really bad to him. I mean, they already, hit his car and whatnot and busted him open. If that wasn't bad enough, I don't know where we're going here. He then begs Owens to back off. And Owens is like, why would I trust anything you're saying? This is all just him pulling the strings. He went from Brock to Roman. And who's the next cash cow? It's Solo. He recounts his history of the Bloodline and says these guys aren't the real Bloodline. It's just Solo and two guys he's going to keep fighting until he kicks them out of his world. He doesn't want nor need Heyman's help. A devious grin, though, goes across Heyman's face. He says maybe he's not trying to help him. Maybe he's just trying to save him. They've met each other's kids, and maybe, just maybe, he's trying to redeem himself. He gets fired up and mocks the notion that he has some visionary plan, and then asks why no one listens to him. And I guess he accidentally hit Owens with the mic, which obviously pisses off Owens, and he goes to corner him. But then, out of the blue, come the Bloodline to beat him down. As that's going on, the Street Profits came out to back up Kevin, and that led to their advertised match, which was Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa versus the Street Profits. Match was good. Eventually, though, of course, leads to the Bloodline getting the victory, as they should. So, like I said, I do think DIY is at some point soon going to dethrone A-Town Down Under. And then once that happens, the Bloodline will win the titles. And eventually DIY will win them back from the Bloodline. If I had to guess. But they win this match. We also get a recap of what happened with the women's tag title match on the King and Queen of the Ring pre-show. Backstage, Bianca and Jade are walking and talking when they ran into Indi Hartwell. And she's pissed off because they hurt Candice. And Bianca tries to talk about Candice coming after her knee. Indi tells her not to change the subject. And Jade tells Indi she'd be happy to put her on the shelf too. Which that's a match next week. Jade Cargill versus Indi Hartwell. Whatever. Then we have a backstage segment from Mia Yim. Not gonna lie, she was looking pretty good. Mrs. Keith Lee. Not bad at all. But anyways, she is asked, of course, about AJ Styles, and she's an OC. She says communications have broken down between them lately. But before she can continue on, Nia Jax interrupts her and asks why everything isn't about her. Mia talks back. Nia says, "Oh, don't you step to me." But Mia steps to her, so I guess they'll have a match sometime soon. Okay, we'll see where it goes with Mia, because again, she is also doing stuff in NXT for this debuting NXT Women's North American title. She's going to be in like a ladder match or something at NXT Battleground. At least to give her something to do, but we'll see, of course, where she goes. Probably set for a random match with her and Nia on SmackDown, I guess, just to keep Nia busy until SummerSlam when she does win the title, which will probably be, which they eventually finally do, Jade versus Nia, but you know. Bayley and Naomi took on Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Match wasn't anything too special. I was intrigued to see the fact that Chelsea and Piper did get the win, but I wasn't a big fan of the finish. How Piper just broke it up with a crossbody, and that was all that needed to put away Naomi. When we've seen how many people do crossbodies, whether it's, someone, bigger built or, smaller built, I didn't really view it as a finisher. So I thought that was like a weak looking finish, and especially on Naomi too, which I hate to see her eat another pin. But that basically set up for Piper Niven to get her shot at Clash of the Castle for Bayley's title. She ain't winning, which is, again, it's the problem, is it's obvious that Piper ain't winning. She's nowhere close to being ready to be the women's champion. I mean, she definitely could be a women's champion, but of course they haven't booked her like a serious contender or a main eventer. So That's why I don't really care too much. And then finally we get to the end. AJ Styles is backstage, walking to the ring. He first runs into LA Knight, his recent rival. And Knight tells him if the rumors are true, respect. AJ nods and keeps walking. He then runs into Cody Rhodes. And they shake hands and AJ pulls him in and whispers something to him. Cody just nods. He then runs into the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. And it's handshake and handshakes. And he says they've been with him all this time. And he's glad they're here with him tonight. And then they head out and make their entrance together. Styles gets in the ring. He gets on the microphone and says he has to tell us he's been thinking about what Nick Aldis said over the past week. Dwelling on it, about if he wanted another chance for Cody's title, he'd have to get to the back of the line. He's doing his job. He gets that. But if he's going to be honest, he just can't do that at this point in his career. At this point in his life, he can't do that. He's been doing this for over 2 decades, busting his body in the ring. Blood, sweat, tears all over the world. And you better believe it. Also, he could become phenomenal. But this past week, though, his son graduated high school. He got to be there. He got to be at the party, which was beautiful. And literally at that point, it hit him how many of these moments he's missed. So he believes instead of being the phenomenal AJ Styles, maybe he should now be focused on being a phenomenal father. He turns over to his 2 best friends, Gallows and Anderson, and waves them close. He says he couldn't have done this without them. And he loves them. They're better than friends. They're like his brothers. And if they have to do it one last time, they should do it right. They do, of course, the too sweet thing, and they hug it out. But then he says before he goes, he whispered something to Cody. And he wants Cody to come out here. Which brings out Cody Rhodes. And we're like, here it comes. Here it comes. It's just a matter of when. Of course, this is where also the segment really just kind of goes south. Because AJ comes out and says, before he came out here to do what he's going to do, he wanted to look at Cody in the eyes and thank him. And say their match at Backlash was one of his greatest matches. I wouldn't say so. It was good, but I wouldn't say it was one of the best matches I've ever seen from AJ. I still think his best match for sure is still probably, I would say the 2 best matches AJ's had since he's been in WWE is either the match he had on SmackDown against Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental title or his match with John Cena at SummerSlam in 2016. 2 amazing matches right there. I would say one of those has been probably his best match. Also give rub to his match with Seth at Money in the Bank in 2019. That was also a phenomenal match as well. Anyways, though, he claims that was one of his best matches in Lyon, France. The crowd was electric, which they were. And if it's his last, that's it. But just so Cody knows, SmackDown is still the house that AJ Styles built. I'm just saying that, by the way. And he wanted to hand Cody the keys. And Cody starts getting emotional for the millionth time. He gets emotional. And he says they've only ever exchanged one text message. And it was after the match, Cody texted him to see if he was okay. And all AJ told him was, all good, little bro. And he basically says, on behalf of the locker room, we love AJ Styles. We love AJ Styles. And I'm just like, oh, God. He's becoming more and more Mr. Rise Above the Hate, blah, blah, blah. Never give up. Oh, gosh. It's just, it's like to Cody's like, everything's great. Everything's great. Like, again, I get it. Cody, you love wrestling. You love the business. But my goodness, you don't have to be another John Cena. Like, I'm sorry. The promos he's starting to cut is just making him look like a John Cena again. It literally is. And again, his matches, awesome. I still love the guy. I'm still going to root for him. But let's first finish this segment. So Cody does exactly what John Cena did to Mark Henry before Mark Henry did what AJ Styles was about to do to Cody Rhodes. And of course that happens because AJ Styles, after Cody, gives him, take his curtain call to each, area of the fans, then AJ drops him with a clothesline. And he mounts punches and stomps, threw Cody out of the ring, and throws him into the steel steps. And as that's happening, he pulls off his suit jacket, and he beats down on Cody. And this is, of course, where I officially am going to declare the Good Brothers heels, because they were the ones preventing security from getting to AJ and Cody. And AJ Styles then hits a Styles Clash on Cody, but it was weird. He was standing on top of the steel steps, but he jumped off the steel steps and just had planted Cody face forward to the mat on the ground. I was kind of wondering why they didn't have AJ, which would have been even more, vicious. Why didn't he hit the Styles Clash on Cody on the steps? Which I was weird. I thought that was odd, but that's how the show ended. And when I watch back at it, I'm just like, okay, for nostalgia, I'm not going to hate on it. But this is setting up another match with AJ and Cody. And as much as I love, again, both the guys, again, this is minus, the whole Cody Rhodes and the emotional, promos that, again, just are making him look a lot more like John Cena. I hate to say it. Why should I care? Because we know AJ's not going to win. Like, I feel like I would have cared a little bit more, because AJ, since he's come back from his injury, has been kind of back and forth. He feels very heel one week. He feels a little face-ish the next week. I think what would have helped this segment, first off, if Cody was, if AJ already was not a heel. I think that would have helped it a wee bit if that would have happened there. Because it was very obvious, AJ's a heel. Why would Cody Rhodes, come out and endorse him like this? Even if AJ, said something to him. But like I said, you had a guy tease retirement, go into a match with Cody, already as a heel, and he's definitely not going to beat Cody. Okay, if you're trying to do this to have AJ reignite with Gallows and Anderson, cool, but I feel you got to capitalize on that by actually giving AJ the title. And I don't think Cody's giving AJ that title. I don't think so. So it's not going to really, in the long run, do anything for AJ. It's not going to get, more fuel under the OC. So it's kind of like, what's the point of doing this again? I don't like this idea that Cody Rhodes basically has nothing to do until The Rock comes back. Yes. Well, again, I would still say this would be a little more interesting if AJ wasn't a heel, even though he's kind of back and forth all year from the first match. They did the first match, AJ was face, and this was the heel turn right here. I think it would have been a little more interesting because it definitely, of course, adds heat. But like I said before, AJ was already a heel their first match, so it's a little bit, maybe just a little bit awkward, I would say. A match still could be good. I would maybe give the stipulation 2 out of 3 falls, maybe. Also, it shouldn't main event Clash of the Castle. That should still go to Damian and Drew. But, I don't know. Like I said, again, the promos that Cody are cutting still just kind of feels like a force, John Cena, he's always happy, he loves wrestling, but it's give him an edge. Give him a little more of an edgier side as well. Just because The Rock's side doesn't mean he has to not talk about LDS or any other stuff that he cut with The Rock. Again, can Cody cut a great promo? Absolutely. But right now, yes, he can be a fighting champion. But right now, he's got to tell a little more of an interesting story. And I feel like we're not quite getting that right now with Cody. So, again, for nostalgia purposes, this was fun. But again, it's in the long run, it's going to look pointless because we all know Cody's going to win at Clash of the Castle. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. that SmackDown, guys, I gave it a C+. Nothing really like blew my socks off. I love the Bloodline promo. I loved the tease for LA Knight and Logan Paul, and of course LA Knight fixing Carmelo Hayes' botch and whatnot. But yeah, again, SmackDown is just okay. It's not as interesting as Raw right now, if I'm being honest. It's just okay. But we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks. And like I said before, I will be working on the Clash at the Castle card. And definitely also got to get into my Turn Alert graphics. Because again, when I do the Gallows and Anderson Turn Alert, because to me it was official when they were holding off security, I'm like, yeah, they're definitely heels again. But we'll get into that another time. Guys, what are your thoughts on the May 31st, 2024 episode of SmackDown? We're now, of course, in June. Leave your guys' thoughts down in the comments section below. Be sure also, as always, to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well, The Club of the Man 93. You may also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at The Club of the Man 1993. Until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch y'all later. Have a great rest of your night, and do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!